Welcome to The Strategic Edge, the podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners who want a competitive edge in the market. They want to be seen as the expert in their industry, and they're looking for cutting edge and innovative strategies that work across industries to help them scale their business like a boss. My name is Carden, and I'm your host. Welcome to the show. Hey everyone, it's Carden here, and I am so excited to be with all of you today and interview my guest, Maija-Liisa Adams, who is a TEDx coach. And I know for many of you in here, as you're wanting to level up and you're really wanting to elevate your brand, to be seen more as the experts that you are, many of you have probably thought about a TEDx talk, being on a TEDx stage, or maybe you've dreamed about a TEDx stage. So I'm really excited to hear everything that Maija-Liisa has to say today and to share with you. And I do know at the very end, she also has some giveaways for you that I know you'll find super valuable. So Maija-Liisa, welcome. I'm so excited.
Thanks, Ann. It's nice to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me. It was so fun to discover each other on Clubhouse, where I also spend some time talking about TEDx.
I know. And that is how we connected. I heard her in another room. She was moderating a room, and then she did her own room, and I went in and kind of connected with her there and loved everything that she had to say. I thought this would be a great fit for this group. So Maija-Liisa, tell my listeners, how did you get started as a TEDx coach? What was your background? How did you get into this? Just tell them a little bit more about you.
Sure. I teach public speaking at the local university here. And when our local city and the neighboring city both started a TEDx event, I, of course, attended. And when they heard that I'm a speaker coach, they said, our speakers needed a little bit of help this year. Would you come and coach them? And I said, I'd be happy to. And so I've spent the last 6 years, now going on my 7th year, helping coach TEDx speakers take the stage in a couple of different events. But also I've been asked to do that privately for clients. And so I do that one-on-one and in groups as well. And part of my training comes from teaching, not just public speaking, but we have a presentations class. And in that, one of the things my students are supposed to do is a TED style talk. Now, I say it's TED style because TED's very careful about their branding. TED is the big one once a year in Vancouver in April, except during the pandemic, and TEDx is independently organized. I should have got some water.
Go ahead.
Independently organized events, and that's what I've been helping with.
Fantastic. So yes, she is a professor and she does communication and all of that as well. So she's an expert at what she does. She didn't just decide she was going to buy into something and then become the expert at it. She has all of this background. Also, make sure everyone hit the heart, hit the likes, tell us you're here. We want to make sure that you're hearing us and that everything is good on your end. And I will also be watching the feed, Maija-Liisa, to make sure if any questions are coming in, I'll be able to ask you those questions for everyone in the group. So that's fantastic. So then how did you kind of, one of the things that happens a lot of times is people don't go out looking to coach people, or they don't go out to consult, right? It just kind of lands in their lap. And it sounds like that's what happened with you.
Absolutely. And part of it was when you're a TEDx speaker coach for an event, that's all volunteer. But then when others are asking, would you spend some more time with me? And I do it's almost like a part-time job, it seems, when I'm going through the TEDx season doing that. But would you spend some more time with me one-on-one? Then that becomes a client, and I do that separately. And then I do it, really for anyone around the world or here locally in the United States. I'm excited today because today is the day when we start the TED style talks at the university with my students. And I'm doing another clubhouse tonight on go ahead and pitch me your TEDx idea. So that's going to be fun too.
Oh, I love it. Let's talk about TEDx ideas. Talk a little bit more about what they're looking for. I know they're very, like you said, they are really protective of their brand. They're very specific about what they want, what they don't want, what you can and cannot do. So can you just share some of those things with everyone?
Yes. So here are the things that they don't want. And that is they don't want anything that's kind of woo-woo or alternative, because they're very science-based. And then also they don't want someone who's up there either preaching their particular politics or particular religion, or even selling their business. Mm-hmm. Now, here I am today talking to business owners and coaches and so forth. And you may have thought, oh gosh, I can't get up on the stage yet. Then you say, I've seen other business owners up talking on the TEDx stage. So it's just how you present it. Let's take Simon Sinek or Mel Robbins or Brene Brown, for example. Simon Sinek doesn't use in his TEDx title or in his TEDx talk his specific branding of his book, Start With Why, but he certainly does give you 3 examples of why it's important to start with why. And then he has his idea, which is people don't care what you do, they care why you do it. And so you need to be careful in how you craft it, that you're not doing something that's copyrighted or that is your book, but you certainly can see what it did for Simon Sinek a dozen years ago when he got on the stage. In fact, I checked his numbers 6 months ago, and he's gone up 6 million views in 6 months. He's now in mid 50 million views. It's incredible. And Mel Robbins, she's known for her book, the 5-second rule, and that's what she talks about. And she does mention the 5-second and tell about it in there, but her title has nothing to do with it. So that's part of what you do. And then Brene Brown, she kind of fell into it naturally, as did Simon Sinek. She, of course, studied vulnerability for 11 years and then was asked to talk about it. And she's not only great at collecting the data, but interpreting it, and then is a great storyteller too. And of course, it has launched her, as we know. And everyone wants to be someone like that. And of course, that's timing of a dozen years ago. There were fewer TEDx events. Now there's much more competition. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be really clear on your idea. But then some people say, well, I don't know if my idea is good enough. And yes, you have to have a good idea, but also the development of that idea is very key. So for example, is it something interesting? Does it challenge the way we look at things right now? Is it completely new? Or is it taking an old topic and giving it a fresh new eyes? Is it like in this day and age, a lot of them have to do with the pandemic and COVID. So it's things that we want to know about right now on that idea. So that's some of the things to do and not to do.
That's interesting. And the one thing that I've seen too, when I've watched a lot of TEDx talks, you kind of said taking an old idea and making it new or doing something fresh. I noticed that there's a lot of innovation. It seems like there's really a lot of innovative things that people talk about that are very different and sometimes outside of the box thinking. But I do love what you said about they also look for the data. They look for things to back up what it is you're talking about. And so that is exactly, and they're also very mission driven, aren't they?
They are very mission driven, yes. And it can be a very, very simple idea, like Joe Smith, who gets up and tells us the proper way to dry our hands after we've washed them in a public restroom, how we can use just one paper towel instead of 2. And it's amazing. It's 3 minutes and it's very impactful.
I should say it's probably got 10 million hits. And
exactly.
That's the craziest thing.
Yeah. But I had one client who she just recently was put onto TED.com, which means it was appropriate, had to do with caregiving during the pandemic and so forth. And the views just start to go up at that point when you have that visibility.
That's fantastic. And really that is a lot of what a TEDx, why I think a lot of people dream of getting on a TEDx stage. I mean, I do think that of course they want to share their message and they, maybe feel like they have something different to share, different to bring, to the world. But at the end of the day, it's also massive credibility. So even though you can't be up there pitching your business, it can totally boost your business and can totally build it.
And it does it after, because your message isn't just for those 15 minutes or 10 minutes on stage, whatever your event organizer gives you, but it's curated and put on TED forever on YouTube as a TEDx talk. And that's when it became popular to the general population. Like I actually heard about TEDx years ago when I had a student say, have you ever heard about the golden circles? And he was referring to Simon Sinek. And I think that's why I use him so much. It was the first one I heard about, and it really affected me and got me going with it all.
That's fantastic. So what are some tips about crafting your message, what you're going to be doing? Can you give us some, and I know you have a handout for everyone that we'll give you the link and everything for that you can go get that from Maija-Liisa, but walk us through some of the tips and some of the things we should know if we want to get on a TEDx stage.
Well, if you have an idea, part of making sure that your idea is going to actually resonate on the stage and have more views is it needs to be, what about that topic today? And interesting. We don't want to talk about something that's been talked about for the last 10 years unless it's a new piece to it. We have to go back and look at how TED started. It started back in 1984 in the Bay Area, and it was in the Silicon Valley there. people who are involved in technology, entertainment, and design would get together once a year and they would talk about the new things. So maybe, and those weren't really recorded. Like I have a friend in technology who 30 years ago gave a TED talk, but I can't watch it because it wasn't recorded and curated like they are today. But they would say, okay, here's something new in technology that when you do this, life's going to be better, right? Things are going to go faster. They're going to go smoother. They're whatever it is, or in the film industry. Maybe if you use this type of film now, it gives this type of a feel. And so try that this year, or this lighting. So it really is in its grassroots about sharing ideas that add to the conversation in something you already know a lot about. And now it's expanded to around the world, and it's expanded to any topic as long as it's not self-promoting, basically.
Right. So do you help people kind of figure out what they're going to talk about if they want to get on a TEDx stage? Is that part of your coaching, that you help them figure out?
So maybe you have people in your audience who have actually applied and been rejected and they don't know why. So we look at that. And I have, not only am I a speaker coach, but in these events that I help, I have looked now at probably 1,000 different applications, and we've talked about them, and we know why we passed over certain people and why we chose others. And it's kind of a formula. I mean, first you have to realize that maybe you were rejected because you just didn't fit. You had a good idea, but it didn't fit for what they were trying to put together. But more often it is the fact that you couldn't clearly communicate your idea in a way that we understood it, or you teased about the idea and we didn't know what it was. We need to know right up front, this is your idea worth spreading. So when I work with clients, we look at the idea, excuse me, and one of the questions you ask yourself is, so why does that matter? Or why is that important? Or so therefore what?
I'm taking some notes.
Yeah, those are some things that you want to ask yourself. And one of the tools I use with my students at the university and with my clients is something called the 5 whys, which was, I think it was Toyota who first started using it. So on the assembly line, when something would break down, like you'd go further and further and further. So you'd see a problem and then you'd say, well, why is this a problem? And then you found a new answer. Well, why is that a problem? And you'd go about 5 levels deep and you'd get to the real problem. And then I like to take it and say, now that we've isolated the real problem or the real pain for people, and honestly, if you want to be able to at least have everyone who listens to your talk understand it or like it at least a surface level before you go deep, is it needs to pretty much touch on things that are important to all of us: better health, more wealth, or better business. And then, of course, love as well, or relationships. And so you sometimes have to go broad before you can go deep so that everybody understands the context. Like if someone says, like money, it makes everything easier, and then they have a way for you to do that, then you're a little bit more interested. Or if someone says, you know what, we kind of all are misunderstood, but then you talk about the way that you specifically have found that helps people be understood better, become understandable.
No, that's great information. So walk us through your process. If someone comes to you and they say, I want to get on a TEDx stage, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, this is what I do. Yeah. What is that process that you take them through? How do you work with clients? How do you help them prepare the talk, or do you practice with them? What are the components there? Okay.
I feel there are 3 components. And what I do is I either do one-on-one coaching, or I do group coaching, this following the same format, but you do it with another 6 or 8 people at the same time. And that's typically 1 call a week, and then you go off and do your homework assignments. So it's kind of like we're doing it with you, not doing it for you and not setting you to do it alone, but there's always that bridge there. And there's 3 parts to it. Number 1 is you've got to land the talk. And so first, what we do before that is we do an assessment of, are you ready? In other words, are you ready to get on the stage? And then, like, what is the idea and where do you want to give it and so forth? And then after that, we look at the path to get you there, where you're going to do it. So the first part is, once we've talked about the idea enough to apply, we get you ready to apply at different organizations, different TEDx events. And after that, then we work on the idea more. So while we're waiting to hear back, we're actually going deeper in the idea and finding how to make it more relevant to today and make it in a way that you have a catchphrase, you have something memorable to make it sticky. So people, like when you see a good movie and you keep talking about it afterwards, that they'll keep talking about yours. And they have that little nugget, like the one I mentioned about Simon Sinek.
Mhm.
And then after that, we also spend a couple weeks talking about what you can do once you have been on the stage, and a month later, your video hits TEDx, and hopefully will also be put on TED.com. Of how to reach out to other people and give it some legs. Part of that starts with having a great title, having a great idea,
Right.
and being really hooking them in the beginning, because once it's on YouTube, we've got like 3 seconds before they click on something else. But there's some other things you can do. So that's my process. And of course, it's an 8-week process. And of course, we're not always having taken the stage by then, because really it's about a 6-month process, 7-month if you include when you're up on YouTube for a TEDx event.
Okay.
So about 6 months out, they are calling for speakers, and they're either going to have you apply through a written application, and then they will weed through them and ask people to audition, or they ask you to send in a video right up front with your application. And then they do a follow-up.
Does that video have to be something where you're speaking, or does it have to be something where they can just see you on video presenting, or even like what we're doing right now?
Most of them are you just spending 2 to 3 minutes about your idea, so that they get a feel for your presence on stage and for the idea. Now, as a TEDx speaker coach, I will always say, and I think every other event organizer feels this way, because it is about ideas, that I will always take a great idea over a great speaker. So maybe you have a great idea, but you think, I just can't get up and share it. We can help you with that. If you don't have a great idea to help with, there's only so much we can do. But you also need to think that the idea isn't the only thing, like it isn't the biggest part of it. It is also the development of it. So you've got to have a good enough idea that we can then develop well, but then we can also help you with the speaking, how to deliver it on stage.
Fantastic. It's really interesting. And it definitely is a very different way of speaking than a lot of other speaking engagements that people get. So I like the concept, and I think it's just very different. And I know it all comes down to, like you said, they're protecting their brand, and they have a certain thing that they're looking for. As I help people elevate their brand, get seen as the expert for what they do, get more visible, all of those things, this could be a great addition. It's kind of like that credibility factor. That can, 10 times what they're doing in their business, just by people seeing that, oh, you did a TED Talk.
Absolutely. And in fact, if you go to Clubhouse and just search for TEDx, you'll see that's the first thing that almost anybody who's done a TEDx talk does, is they put TEDx speaker.
Right. They put it right in the bio.
They do. Or even I was going onto Twitter because I wanted to connect with more TEDx event organizers, and I did TEDx, and I'd find, TEDx Sao Paulo and all of those. But also then it's like it was taking me to individuals, because even on Twitter in their profile, there's that TEDx speaker right there.
Right. Now, do you do anything to run the events and things like that, or do you basically just coach people and get them ready?
Well, I do 3 things. I do the university, which is completely salaried, and I do that separate and has nothing to do really with TED or TEDx. And I don't work for TED or TEDx, not affiliated with them, but I do help at 2 local events. And so my help is I am specifically the TEDx speaker coach, and then help go through the applications and decide who's going to speak, and then also who's going to speak in what order and what topics we're going to do, and have input on that as well. So very much involved in the organizing of it as well on the speaker end of it. But then with my own personal clients, then it's just helping you find, and here's what you want to look at when you're looking for your own TEDx event is find one that has really great audio and video and a great stage, because that adds even more credibility. Like I was watching some yesterday, and they had just a black curtain, and the guy's head was over the top of that, and it's just a really cool Mickey Mouse stage, right? And it's like that doesn't show your business. So it's not only I'm going to get on a TEDx stage, it's which TEDx stage, and most of them are great, but just making sure, that's what we talk about too, is like, well, what about this one versus this one? And let's go back and look at videos of past events and so forth. Do
people buy into the TEDx franchise so that they can run separate events or run their own events wherever they are? Is that why there's such a difference in what you're talking about?
No, it's all volunteer is why it's such a difference. And there you have to apply for a license, and you have that license for 1 year. The TEDx event organizer, there's a licensee, and there's the event planner and the sponsor. The money to do it comes from how many sponsorships you can get. So people can volunteer to give each event money to help with programs or videoing. or the photography that happens, or any of the other expenses that come along.
Mm-hmm.
But then the person who organizes it, it's completely volunteer. And these people around the world are passionate about being TEDx event organizers and being involved with, and they do it out of the love of the idea. And
that's what I was going to ask. What is that? It sounds like a lot of work, a lot of work. Yeah. So what is their purpose for doing that? So they're just people with time and they just love to do it.
Well, they are people with time, but busy people find time, right? So it is. And you have a timeline and you set it out, or your year plan and so forth, and when you start things out, and the more you do it, the better you get at. Like some TEDx events have been going now for 12 years, and others are just starting.
Fantastic.
About 7 years, there were 300 of them, and now there's over 3,000 of them.
Wow.
And in a typical year, non-pandemic year, we have about 10 TEDx events a day. And if anyone's interested right now, it's so easy to attend a TEDx event because so many of them, or basically all of them, are virtual. Right. Just go on to Eventbrite, and there are about 6 in the next 6 weeks that are happening. Well, there's actually more than that because they don't put everything on there. But you can find some from, like TEDx Mile High is coming up, and you've got things coming from London and all over the world. And so I always recommend that a TEDx speaker attend a TEDx event before they apply, so they get a feel from the organizer's side. Because on the organizer's side, we're looking for someone who fits the theme of what we're doing that particular time. So let me give you a little context. TED.com, the big brand franchise, the owners of it all, it costs $10,000 to attend for a week, and there are 5 days and 3 sessions each day. And each session has its own theme. So there's an overall theme for TED that year, but each session has it. And one session might be all about artificial intelligence. So you're going to have 8 speakers talk about artificial intelligence. Now you pull it back to a TEDx event, and you're going to have maybe 8 to 12 speakers total. And one would be on artificial intelligence, but one would be something from the arts or from music or from science or even from leadership or any of these other things. And they're putting together not 2 or 3 people speaking about the same thing, but 8 or 12 speaking about different things, and that they feel is good for their community that year.
Interesting. No, this is just fantastic information, and I know people are already like, "Oh, thank you for this guest speaker." So, great job! They're loving you. They're loving the idea.
Let me tell you that one of the first clients that I had basically was I was attending a seminar of 1,000 people, and she was not the main speaker, but she got on stage and she said, I really want to do a TED Talk sometime. And I was really new at it. And I just walked up to her and I said, I can help you with that. And she now has 1.6 million views.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible. So for her, it was like a life's dream, kind of a bucket list thing. And also she had a great topic too. And the other thing is, here's one of the things that you want to do if you become a TEDx speaker is you mention it every time you're talking elsewhere. Well, and you might have seen in my TEDx talk or firm
right.
information.
Leverage, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. I'm always telling everyone repurpose, and a lot of people don't like to put themselves out there, and they don't want to toot their own horn. But look, we're in an online world and an online market where if you want to get those opportunities, if you want to build your business, you've got to do that. You're doing that with everything that you're doing too. So
absolutely.
I love this. So what are give us just a couple of action steps maybe that people can take away.
So typically if we get together and talk for 30 minutes, I give you homework already then, even if you decide not to work with me. And what you can do is say, this is my industry, this is my field, this is my expertise. And then I say, go find out what's already been said about it. So go to TED.com, click on topics, and go look at your topic. And then when you're looking at them, pay attention to those that have the most views. And then you'll start to figure out why.
She's giving you some gold nuggets here, everyone.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So go find what's already been said. And then also just look at playlists of the most popular TEDx talks and TED Talks. And then again, look at their title. Look at how they got you in the beginning. Look at what they said at the very end. And not only do people not go deep enough in finding the idea, they don't go deep enough in developing it on stage. So sometimes they'll just make one statement, but it usually is a series of 3 or 4 statements which is here it is, which means this, which means this. And then by about the third or fourth, like, oh, I see how it comes together. And they go a little bit further. So if you look at those most popular ones, then you understand. Going back to Simon Sinek, one of the reasons his is so popular is one is his passion, but he just simply tells 3 stories. Mm-hmm. And after each, he says the same thing, and it's memorable because it ties into what the stories that he chose. Apple Computer, Martin Luther King, and the Wright brothers. People don't care what you do. They care why you do it. And so that stays with you the whole time. Joe Smith shows us how to wash our hands. I can't go into a public restroom now without shaking my hands 12 times and then folding the paper towel in half and then saying, oh, wow, I just saved some trees there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a thought leader, right? That just changed the game.
Yes, exactly.
That's great. So you do have a couple of things. So one of the things you mentioned is your Red Dot
Ready assessment.
Red Dot Ready assessment. Okay.
Yes. And so if you are interested in that, then go to that link, which is basically mlspeaks.com. So my name's Maija-Liisa, but I wanted to be nice to you all. Like, it's hard to spell my name. So just ML.
That's a pretty name, though. It is hard to spell. I think I finally have it, but
there you go.
I will put also for everyone, I will put the links I'll edit everything at the end of this and add text, and I'll add her links to that. But that's the call with you, right? Where you're spending 30 minutes with them.
And then also, if they're just curious, like I've put together what I feel are the top 10 tips that a TEDx speaker coach is looking for in a speaker. Mm-hmm. And those 10 tips are on there too. You can just download the PDF.
Oh, fantastic. So, and is that, you said that's at your website?
Mm-hmm. mlspeaks.com. Yeah.
mlspeaks.com. You can download those 10 tips. So everyone can go to that. And again, I'll put those links with it. But yes, she's being so gracious in offering both of those things to all of you today for being here.
And the reason I call it Red Dot Ready is you're standing on an 8-foot diameter red plush carpet on a TEDx stage. The TEDx stage has made that popular. And so it's like, are you ready to stand in the middle of those 8 feet in diameter and share your idea and spread it?
I love it. No, this has been amazing. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to share?
I don't think so. I mean, and you're welcome to just find me on Facebook. And I do have a Facebook group, Maija-Liisa Speaks, which you could join too. I mean, I'm happy to answer your questions anytime. As you can probably tell, I'm pretty passionate about speaking and communicating and being understood and having an idea that's like, you know, what we're in such an information dump right now that we really need to be in an idea area. And that means make it shorter and make it more direct and make it something that's memorable. And then we can take away like, yeah, there is power in vulnerability, like Brene Brown says.
Mm-hmm. Shorter, direct, and what was the last thing you said?
Memorable, make it sticky somehow, memorable. And Amy Cuddy is basically saying your body language may change your life, may shape your life. And you think, oh, I should probably, out of context, you understand, I should have better posture. I should do some certain things. But then you find many more things when you listen to her TED Talk.
No, this has been so great. First of all, I value your time, so I want to make sure that I honor that. And thank you so much for being here. This has been amazing. I'm excited that we connected, and I know that we'll maybe do some things together in the future as well. And I highly recommend her. Like I said, I've been in a couple of her clubhouse rooms. I heard her talk. I was like, I have to connect with her. So she's amazing at what she does. And for any of you that have been thinking about a TED Talk, have been dreaming about it, please reach out to her and go download also the 10-point assessment, 10 point.
The top 10 tips.
Top 10 tips. Okay.
Yeah. Or go ahead and contact me and let's get together and we'll talk for 30 minutes and put you on a path to TEDx and help you check something off your bucket list and do something that you can put in your profile that says TEDx speaker and help make you more visible with your business.
There you go. And I love too that you even said you also do some things after they've done the talk. Like, what do you do with that? How do you leverage that? How do you use that?
Exactly.
That's a really powerful piece. I know when I work with a lot of times people who are speakers and authors and things, they don't know what to do with a lot of the stuff that that is getting created. If they end up on a magazine cover, what do I do with that? Yes. And so I love that you're doing that piece of it too, the marketing almost aspect of it.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Everyone, please connect with her. Go check out her information. And I can't thank you enough.
Oh, you're welcome, Ann. And hello to all of you. And I hope that our paths cross.
Awesome. Thank you. And if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments and I will make sure she sees them. And we can answer those questions for you. Or again, you can follow her, get into her Facebook group as well. I have not let anyone else pitch their Facebook group in my group. So you are special.
Thanks.
I think it's a good compliment to what I help people do as well. So thanks again. And everyone, thank you so much for being on. Make sure you hit that heart button and that like button. And we will talk to you next time. Have an awesome day.
You on the red dot.
Yes, there you go. Bye-bye.
Bye.